Because in the experiences of humanity, the clock as we know it is not the determinant. Events determine their own consequences. Timing is by means of the relationship of situations that arise. Night is when darkness controls the soul. Day is when light controls the soul. All the different time periods, cycles, and so forth tie into moods and attitudes of human beings in the various stages of their unfoldment and development. Disillusionment is the deluge, and it comes inevitably in the course of human experience. The mistakes we make finally come down upon us in a heap of trouble. And we find the alcoholic, who is a moderate drinker. He gets along fairly well. He has been forced out of the Garden of Eden because his integrities are not very good, but he can still make a living, and he can still plant a field and fulfill the admonition to go forth and replenish the earth. But the longer he goes on with this alcoholism or this delinquency that he may have, it slowly takes hold of him. And instead of being a moderate drinker, he gradually becomes an alcoholic. And the moment he is an alcoholic, then the deluge has come. The great darkness has descended upon him. And in many instances, he doesn't even want to recover. And he goes down in utter futility into a situation that has gradually built up. In the first centuries of humanity in the Bible, after the loss of the Garden of Eden, can be likened to the problem of the individual who starts out on a career of compromise, trying to achieve worldly applause and ignoring the needs of his own nature. Now one say, well, after all, he had no way of knowing better. His parents couldn't tell him, society doesn't tell him. How is he going to find out in time not to make these mistakes? Well, education should provide him with one factor: experience. He should learn to observe the consequences of the action of the law of cause and effect. There is no person in trouble who hasn't had a warning of some kind. If the individual becomes a narcotic trafficker, a young person, he's arrested. Perhaps he's fined, perhaps he's disciplined, perhaps he's given 6 months in jail as a first offender. Now, if he's a first offender, that was his last offense, he would have learned his lesson. But it isn't. He comes out and repeats. Now, it's the same way with most of the problems of life. The individual making a compromise with principles has a tendency to drift along and get deeper and deeper into trouble until finally he is part of that world which has to be destroyed by a deluge. Now, the deluge doesn't mean that everyone dies. The deluge doesn't mean that water or air or anything else must fall from the sky. It means that the individual is drowned in his own mistakes, and a civilization lacking that, or working on that basis, is drowned in its own mistakes. Now, at the present time, a lot of people think we're down the first time at the moment, but we haven't gone down for the second and third time as yet. But when you go down for the first time, there's a superstitious belief that your life goes in panorama before your eyes, and you can still be rescued. There is always a chance to rescue if the individual or the collective learns a lesson. If an experience means something, then there is always the possibility of further help. But if the individual passing through these emergencies learns nothing, refuses to accept the consequences of conduct, refuses to change his ways, then he continues until he is dissolved in the flood of his own mistakes. And this is becoming an increasingly common condition. Now, religion has its place in this problem also, for gradually we have lost the realization that religion is a cooperative enterprise. The purpose of religion is to help all human beings to an inner reconciliation of their lives with the principles of truth. But today, too many religions are simply battling each other. The competitive spirit has come in, and competition of all kinds belongs to the world of errors. Competition is the thing that causes the individual to compromise his principles in order to secure an advantage. And various religions constantly berating each other, calling each other heathens, and demanding a complete allegiance to a creed rather than to a truth. All this is just part of that conspiracy by which the principle of evil is constantly at work in our lives. So everywhere we turn, we find that Milton has certain grounds for his assumption that Satan and his angels have taken over. But he promptly tells us it isn't essentially necessary, it isn't inevitable. So in the second part, Paradise Regained, Milton emphasizes the Christ ministry. He emphasizes the fact that even when the powers of evil were plotting to destroy the Garden of Eden, the Messiah was present with his Father, and that the Messiah promised to his Father that he would intercede for the salvation of mankind. So Paradise Regained is the story of the intercession. It is the story of the rise of a great example of integrities, a great principle of virtue, not as complicated nor as dramatic as the Old Testament, but working definitely upon the principle of love and honor. So that whereas man today considers love as merely a physical emotion, in the New Testament and in the concept of Christ, love is the saving grace of that which is so fond of something superior to itself that it will sacrifice the lesser for the greater. Love is therefore the sacrifice of self-will in order to express dedication to the labors of divine will. It was through hate and conspiracy that the angels fell. It is through love and fraternity that man rises again, and in the course of it also saves the angels. Because it is only through man's own intercession that which fell of its own corruption can be saved. But man himself has within him always and forever the power to achieve the integrities that are necessary. So into the compound of human ambition, which was largely dominated by the satanic impulse to corruption, there emerges the symbol of purity, the symbol of dedication, the symbol of an integrity which cannot be corrupted. And in this we find the changes that are necessary in the life of the individual. Most people today, if they do not like something, they waste a great deal of energy hating it. And at the end of that time, they are gone and the problem is still there. Therefore, hatred solves nothing. The individual, there's a story in one of the old Lives of the Saints, one of the ancient books that had to do, like the Golden Legend, of a monk in his cell. And he was meditating and he was praying for help and guidance and trying to fight the evils that were within his own nature. And there was the cloud of smoke and the devil came up through the floor. And the devil, the old monk looked at the devil and was very much startled and surprised. But instinctively, without realizing it, he blessed the devil. Instantly it changed into an angel. So this is something that has a certain moral value to almost everyone. It deals with the idea that one of the ways of making good out of things that are wrong is to try desperately to help rather than to criticize. To try and see good as far as possible is to strengthen good.